We did it!
Ah! Oh god. This is my life.
How's it going, Couch Crew? Happy New Year. It's 2026. And believe it's here already. We've hit the end of the year, and we've been through a lot of games. It's been a pretty exciting year with many games played and experienced. So we're going to talk about our top 5 peak and weak games of the year. This is a disclaimer. What does this mean? These are just games that I've played for the first time in this year. So generally this means that if a game came out 10 years ago, but I never played it, and we just played it this year, then it counts. I can't play every game the year it comes out. I don't have that kind of time. Just so you all know, it's spoiler free. Anyways, this is just my opinion. Anyone's welcome to not agree with them. Games are meant to be played, even if they end up not being what you expect to, or offer you some sort of life-changing experience. It also doesn't mean that they're unplayable. It's just like anything else we experience in life, so just take it with a grain of salt. That said and done, let's start off with our number 5 on our week list. Silent Hill F. Yeah, I know, it's quite a surprise for me too. As I was putting things together and really thinking about how I felt about each game, and even as a huge Silent Hill fan, Silent Hill F just really didn't spark that much enjoyment while playing the game. It has some good points, and the story is really good for sure. But the combat really leaves much to be desired, and having to slog through it all just to get the true ending and the full story really just sort of felt more like salt in my wounds rather than something hard fought and earned. It revolves around the new systems added, and unfortunately, due to that existing, they want you to engage with it. I hear there have been patches that fixes a lot of these issues, and while they may be good, my experience with it just leaves it on the weak list. Top 5. Heartworm. Another survival horror? Who would have guessed? I was really looking forward to Heartworm for quite a while and was very excited when it finally came out. Basically, almost a solo dev game that draws a lot of inspiration from the 90s classic survival horrors, filters, control schemes, and fixed camera angles galore. We really stepped into the time machine for this one. It's even located loosely in my general area, so it was really one of those funny little experiences of watching the sunrise while you have the window seat for the bus for once. Heartworm did a great job giving that classic feel back with weird enemies and interacting with them in ways you'd kind of simply go about with older games, and the story really had you thinking as long as you looked at the info and documents, and also did a pretty good job at making you feel like a depressed millennial going through one of these situations. I highly suggest checking it out if you want to support indie devs. Number 4, weak game of 2025. Atelier Ryza 3, Alchemist of the End and the Secret Key. This one hurts me a lot to put on, but I can't play favorites, even if I am an Atelier fan and really like the Ryza games. The last Ryza game in the trilogy that closes the door on Alchemist Rysland Stout's chapter. The story itself was pretty okay in containment, as a typical RPG with an end goal. A lot of the systems have general quality of life improvements, and for the Ryza series, the battle system is a lot nicer to use than the others. The downside with this game for me is really just the bloat of things. We have a Smash Ultimate gimmick of everyone is here, and then some. So your party consists of almost like 10, 11 characters, including the new ones in this series we're introduced to, and while a lot of the reunions and heartfelt character interactions are there, a lot of it is just unnecessary. Side quests that don't really give any amount of character depth or lore, and is just there for the sake of filling time, is usually what you're going against with this game. The ending still put a tear in my eye, and I'm glad to have played it, but it didn't have enough of the juice to really put it on the better side of this list. Also, they decided to remake the trilogy with new things and other quality of life changes, and they call it the Atelier Ryza DX trilogy, and they announced it just as we finished the 3rd game. So like, if you're looking to try out the Ryza series, just get the DX trilogy in one package. Top 4 game of 2025. Constance. A new indie Metroidvania game enters the arena. Another sleeper game we managed to stumble across on social media, and I don't regret any minute of it. The only downside was the devs delayed this game's release because their initial release time was shooken up because Silksong came out with the steel chair. Otherwise, a smart decision by them in all honesty. Everything in this game is beautiful: animations, themes, backgrounds, combat, and platforming. It's all just buttery smooth and hard to stop admiring, While we also figured out a lot of the silly movement tech and sequence breaking for the game, it didn't really take away from the experience of exploring the regions, whimsically just roaming around between trying to go to areas or fulfill side quest requirements. A lot of people would just say, Hollow Knight clone, or something of the sort, but besides people not really knowing what a genre means or how to separate these things, the game brings its own unique take on abilities and map traversal and marking. Constance is an artist after all. Wink. Oh, that wasn't something I was supposed to say. Week game number 3 of 2025. Atelier Yumiya, the alchemist of memories in the envisioned land. God, I'm really just starting to sound like a villain towards series I really like. With a lot of hype surrounding this game and a new entry into the Atelier series, I definitely gave this a lot more credit initially than I should have. But hey, I'm only human. Even with a funny Tekken 8 collab, I find myself nitpicking this game a lot. A lot of things with the Atelier games that generally are fun is the alchemy, and while you incrementally get a handle of how it works and selectively find and loop things to make items better, in Yumiya it's incredibly easy, and doesn't really have much depth to it other than put points in the thing, put high number into the soup, and select what you want boosted, and then bam! And for what it's worth, with the confusing system in general, the simplicity is fine for newer people, but it just felt like some of the charm got sucked away with it. I like the characters a lot, but the plot really only keeps like 2 important facts around and revolves around those a lot, where most of the time all the other characters could just not exist or be around, and feel like they don't add much of anything anymore at all. The story feels like they keep you sort of invested for the first quarter and then fast forward to points that don't really lead to anything and just kind of make you go, okay, I guess? It felt pretty messy. While most of the time in these games you do just kind of run around and collect things and battle things and open up areas in the world, Yumiya just sort of becomes Breath of the Wild, which isn't like the worst, but the gameplay loop got stale pretty quickly. And unless you're a map completionist, you could really ignore all of it, since there isn't really much of a reward for it anyway, outside of like certain percentages. Don't get me wrong, if they make another, I'll definitely check it out. But if you really have interest in this game, get it on sale. Preferably over 50%. Number 3, top game of 2025. Stellar Blade. Talk about going out of my comfort zone. I've never really been much for these type of games, Souls-likes, but I don't know if you'd really consider this a Soul-like, but either way. I saw a lot of it here and there when it was released, and since it wasn't immediately out on PC, I kind of just shrugged it off. But when the PC release came out, I figured, you know what, let's give it a go. I had to say, I was pleasantly surprised and had a really good time with it. The story was really good, the characters were quite unique, and a lot of the text and documents in passing were great to find and put together when it came to random information or finding people in the world. Combat was pretty simple and fun to build along a tree. Eventually, defense-wise, you dodge in specific directions, depending on the color of the attack enemies are trying to hit you with, or you just find the right position to be in, or you're able to just parry everything. I saw a lot of the comments people have made about this series and all, and I have to say is, what the hell, people? This isn't even that bad. This is just a game. Just say you hate. Either way, there's supposedly a sequel coming out, and I'm looking forward to it. Week game number 2 of 2025. Gal Guardians 2, Servants of the Dark. Well. If you watched my 2024 list, you would know the first game was my worst game of 2024. And the sequel came out this year, so my friend Alucard and I buckled up, prepared for the worst, and co-opted the game to the true ending. The terror and PTSD of the first game really set in, and we spent the entire game expecting the rug to get pulled out from under us. Surprisingly, it did not, but it still decided to throw a bunch of fan service our way. Gameplay-wise, we were very surprised at the level of platforming and Metroidvaniaing they offered. It is both a pro and a con. The movement and platforming is super smooth and pretty cool, but every time you get extra upgrades, it starts just becoming more jumps and more air dashes, and it just starts being the solution that feels like a lazy problem they could have just done something else for, or not have. It's kind of a funny situation because the quests and plot for the first game were very questionable, but the gameplay, bosses, and abilities were sort of unique compared to the 2 characters. But this game does not have a questionable bit of story and plot and quests, but sort of has a boring level of platforming and problem solving. It doesn't really differentiate between using the 2 characters other than just playstyle. And for that, the game does not get branded with the weakest game of 2025. Top 2 game of 2025. Hollow Knight Silksong. As someone who loves Metroidvanias, especially indie ones, I don't know if we're seeing a pattern here. It was kind of inevitable that this game would be on the list. What bad is there really to even say about Silksong? While it has been a normal amount of time before it was released, it finally showed up, and we got to be Hornet now in a land of new bugs. If you're a fan of Hollow Knight, it surely is worth the time for all the exploring and adventuring you can do. While patched out by this point in its life cycle, we did figure out some movement tech to reach some areas and managed to make a lot of funny videos and content about it. Endearing characters all around and beautiful art and music captured my heart, as we spent a good 90 hours on it. I do want to say more about it, but I don't want to reveal any tidbits with the game, because it feels like it's always more about the discovery, but take my word for it, it's worth it. Weakest game, number 1 of 2025. Aced. This sure was a game. This sure had a lot of good ideas, and I think everything all put together just made it fall flat. A game where you're, as a courier, are just going fast, running forward, a la Sonic the Hedgehog, and escaping the ooze, more or less to help save the world. Made by Landfall, which usually has very good, goofy, fun gameplay mechanics, and a very good art style aesthetically, you'd think there would be a bit more to it all. Areas are generated per level and have a unique flow to run around with in between different abilities and environment to use and boost yourself, but it falls apart so quickly where one mess up just ruins the whole run. The boss battles seem pretty unique, but kind of like the Sonic battles where you run through, hit them, they reset, but there's only 3 of them and they end up recycling and just adding more nonsense to dodge for difficulty. By the time you get to the end, you'll just be in a weird sequence for the final battle that just kind of defeats the whole purpose of anything you've learned. And it just gets more frustrating than not by the end because failing to restart the level means going through the whole set of maps again. The story has the roguelike advancement where they want you to fail, and restarting lets you interact with the NPCs more and advance their dialogue. But outside of getting the vibe of the characters' personalities, the growth really isn't there, and it just feels like they just say words more often than not. But it was worth a shot to play. I'm glad I did, but it will get my title of Weakest Game of 2025. And my top game of 2025, Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist. Yeah, more indie Metroidvanias, I know, moving on. Anyways, Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist is a sequel to Ender Lilies, Quietest of the Nights, another beloved game in my head. So while waiting for this game's release, it probably had the highest level of expectation for me. Story, fantastic. It branches off well to the events of the first game, takes place in another part of the world completely separate from it, but it's still very relevant for knowing, and even some surprises if you pay attention. Gameplay, a huge improvement from the first, between homunculus skills being cooldown based instead of number of uses, and a wider variety of types and options to use and swap between as needed. You can even change the damage values or other aspects of the game to challenge yourself more for more rewards, which lets you redeem more rewards within the game. The map being a lot easier to navigate with, and having a non-silent protagonist this time changed up the dynamic in how the story is told, and how the characters think and interact with each other. I wouldn't call it perfect, but if they end up making another game set in this universe, they always have more than just my support. So that's it for my top 5. Peak and weak games of 2025. It's been quite an exciting year with a lot going on and many games played, so making this list wasn't easy. I'd like to thank you guys for taking this time, and I hope to bring more stuff in 2026. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.